we've invited the Director of Athletics, John Hartwell, to be on with the show with us today to kind of give us some insight as to some of these big announcements that have been made and some just the changing dynamics of college athletics. It's a very, very strange time. And John, thanks for spending some time with us here on the show. I know there were some pretty exciting things happening this week with college football. Shots fired in the SEC. Thankfully, we're not having anything like that close to home. But thanks for your time today, and hopefully we don't have to throw any fire extinguishers with what's going on with any of your comments today.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that there were a couple of things that involve Aggie athletics that got announced today, so that we wouldn't be lacking for any topics to talk about, but probably first,
gymnastics is one of the big ones.
Really excited to make the announcement today that we hired Kristen White as our new gymnastics coach. It's been about 4 weeks since we found out that Amy Smith was departing to be the first gymnastics coach at Clemson University, and they are starting up gymnastics, but we are fired up and thrilled to have Kristen join us. She comes from a tremendous pedigree, an Oklahoma native. She was a two-time All-American at the University of Oklahoma, where in her senior year they finished runner-up in the NCAA championships. She got a master's degree from Oklahoma, was a club gymnastics coach at Dynamo, which is one of the outstanding club programs in the whole country, for about 5 or 6 years. Got back into the collegiate side of things at Oklahoma, and then went to Iowa State and Ames for a couple of years. And we hire her from Arizona State, where they have had a very successful program too. So excited to get her on board. And we had a Zoom meeting this morning. That is one of the positive byproducts of COVID, if we can say there are a couple, is the ability to unite people from all over the country and literally all over the world via Zoom meeting. So we were able to gather our gymnastics student athletes today and had her on there, and she's already contacted them individually as well. So she is up and running, and we're excited to get that position filled.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I know that's certainly when you have a successful coach like Amy Smith and what she has done here and how she's brought the program back to national prominence. It's not an easy job to replace, but excited for the future and what is kind of now the next steps for USU gymnastics. So exciting announcement today. Yeah, that just happened earlier today that was made official. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and, like you said, finishing in the top 25 was a major accomplishment for us. But, you and I have talked about this before. I would much rather have to do a coaching search on the heels of success than on the opposite end of that, on the heels of having to move on from a coach. And obviously, we had an unbelievable applicant pool. People understand the success that we've had in gymnastics, and that it's a program that is poised for future success. So, but Kristen really rose above the competition, if you will, in the search process, and we're excited to have her and her family move to Cache Valley.
Certainly one of the sports that has a lot of attention and gets a lot of people excited is football. And there's been some recent things that have taken place with football. There's new turf that's down. That's, a healthy field is always a good thing for the health of the players. But you also announced that Utah State Athletics is going to build a new indoor practice facility. Utah State already has an indoor facility. So how is this different, and how will that help take athletics to another level with what's going on with USU?
Yeah, great question there, and it's interesting because the reasons why we're looking to build a second practice facility are almost parallel with the reasons the University of Utah is doing the same thing. So, the Stan Lobb Center has been a huge benefit and a huge asset for not just for Utah State athletics, but utilized by campus as well as the community some, and it will continue to be a very valuable asset for Utah State athletics. But it's only 80. The field inside is only 80 yards long. It only has one end zone, and you could work around those things. But maybe the most difficult thing is there for those that have not been inside the facility, from the sidelines marking the football field to either steel beams or cinder block walls is about 3 or 4 feet, and certainly not conducive to student-athlete welfare or safety in terms of trying to go, live scrimmages in that building. It's just not safe to do that. So the proposed new facility, which we're in the fundraising phases of right now, have not totally we put some conceptual things out there, haven't totally tweaked all the nuances of the design yet, but that facility will not only be a full 100-yard length plus the 2 end zones, but it will have plenty of room on the sides as well, because actually we're going to build it to the specifications of a collegiate soccer field, not intended to replace Chuck and Gloria Bell Field at all, but it would serve as a fallback if we had inclement weather, or if we had prolonged rain like we had this last fall. We actually had 3 soccer matches this last fall that we had to move. Ridgeline High School was kind enough to let us come down there to play a couple of matches, and we also had to play one down at the University of Utah. So looking to try to avoid that situation once this facility is built.
And it'll be built, as far as I understand it, on the existing what's known as the outdoor practice fields for the football team, just north of the track. Is that basically where that will be located?
Yeah, that is correct. And the north facing side, which will be one of the sidelines of the field there, that side will be a building that will run the full roughly 140 yards in length. And included in that building will be our new golf practice facility, locker rooms and coaches' offices for our soccer team, as well as a visiting locker room for soccer, because it will be located, just across a short walk across that parking lot there to the soccer field, and some other storage components, also likely having a practice throws room for track and field in there as well, with nets in it, so that our shot putters and discus throwers can throw in there. It was funny the other day because somebody was asking me, said, well, do y'all have that facility right now? I said, yeah, but very few people know where this is. So if you walk in the public entrance doors of the Spectrum right there by where the ticket office is, instead of going up the escalator or the stairs, if you walk straight ahead through those doors and kind of turn the corner there's a door back there, and there's actually a practice throws room in there, which is not convenient at all to the rest of our track and field facilities. But we'll relocate that practice throws area as well, which will free up some much needed room in the Spectrum.
And what's the projected timeline to get this done?
Yeah, we don't have a finalized time yet. We do have we've already secured 2 7-figure gifts on the facility, and in process on some others too. At the end of the day, it's going to be a $30 to $32 million project, and we're hopeful to get that raised here in the next 6 to 8 months at the most. So I would say we're probably looking at 18 months to start construction, and probably realistically 2.5 years till completion.
That's a big project. But
Yeah.
as you've indicated, it's not just a football facility. A lot of different athletics will benefit from it. So
Yeah,
it's exciting.
actually, it will touch almost every one of our student athletes because the existing Stan Law facility, literally 6 days a week, and there's also some Sunday activities in there as well. But literally 6 days a week from 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. every day, that thing is booked solid. So,
Wow.
and by pulling the most of football's use out of there, it will free up some additional time for some of our other sports. And in the existing indoor facility, we're going to look at putting a netting system in there where, the ability to drop a net or two nets where you could have, softball at one end and soccer at the other end, or, other examples like that. So really the freeing up of the Stan Law complex is going to be beneficial to all of our student athletes.
Earlier this week, actually it was tail end last week, it was announced that BYU was going to be canceling its future games with Utah State, at least those that were under contract. They did have an out clause, and they're exercising it. Utah State's not alone in future games being canceled for BYU, but you issued a statement, and so did BYU, that both sides would like to see the series continue. But what does that look like in the future? And then coupled with that, how do you replace BYU on the schedule currently?
Yeah, so Tom Holmoe and I have had several conversations. In fact, it was interesting because 2 weeks ago, when several conferences were having their meetings in Scottsdale, including the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Mountain West, along with a couple of days of activities that the Fiesta Bowl sponsors. Actually, Tom and Mark Harlan and I were all down there together, so we got a chance to to visit in various circles there, and we're committed to trying to put some games out there in the future. But obviously, the Big 12 going to a 9-game conference schedule, the availability for them was reduced. I have had several people ask me, said, well, why aren't they paying you guys out? Now, they did have the foresight, and they've had this in their contracts for several years, just basically said, hey, if a conference affiliation opportunity becomes available, the ability to null and void these contracts going forward is there, and they utilize that clause in there. But I would see a scenario where we could potentially play them, 2 out of every 4 or 2 out of every 6 years. We don't have anything definite on the schedule yet. Our more immediate needs are to fill that hole in 23, which is a home game. The good news, as you alluded to, with some of this conference realignment between the American Conference USA, the Big 12, what's going on. We are in negotiation or in conversations right now with several opportunities, which I, is going to allow us, I think, to have, or I know, to have a pretty attractive home game to replace that game. And then we're working on some other series as well. In fact, my deputy AD, Jerry Bovey, spent most of his day today. He was working on football scheduling stuff. So look for a lot of that to crystallize here probably over the next 2 to 4 weeks.
It's exciting. And I guess coupled with that is anytime that discussion is had about BYU and future schedules there, is there any movement on getting Utah on the schedule at some point in the future?
Well, obviously they're going to have some voids too, because BYU is stepping away from some of those games. Mark and I have talked, and as always, I have left that door open. But whether it's Utah or BYU, we have no interest in playing either one of them in a guarantee game. In other words, where we receive money for going there. The only thing that we would be interested in with either of them is, a home and home, and, we'll continue we'll continue to have that stance and hopefully come to fruition sooner than later with our friends in Salt Lake City.
Well, certainly applaud you for sticking to your guns on that one. But one other topic that's certainly a hot one this week especially, and it has been brewing for several months, name, image, likeness, how it's being used in recruiting, allegations from being thrown around. But as a university, as an athletic department, you've joined many other athletic departments in trying to get your arms around this a little bit with going to an organization to help navigate some of these waters. Explain kind of why you decided to go that route and why can potentially benefit the athletes.
Yeah, I will. Can I touch on one other thing football-wise? And I don't know if you saw this today or not, Eric. And this actually came out of some action we took in the Division I Council on Wednesday, which I am actually
I did want to ask you about that.
In an interim role as the Mountain West representative on the Division I Council now. But in essence, what was decided was previously, in order for a conference to have a championship game, you had to have two divisions and have the winner of each division. The Division I Council, at the recommendation of the Football Oversight Committee, decided or made the recommendation to eliminate that requirement and allow teams to take their top two teams to participate in the conference championship game. And so we had an athletic directors meeting yesterday for the Mountain West, which that was voted upon. And then the board of the Mountain West met this morning, and they confirmed that. So there was an announcement released today that says starting in 2023, we're going to keep divisions for the upcoming 2022 season, but for 2023 to eliminate the two divisions, which will cause a change in our scheduling methodology. But the top two teams will play in the Mountain West Championship game. And the rationale behind that is the best thing that can happen for us as a league and for whoever that team may be is to get one of our teams as that guaranteed slot of a group of five team into the New Year's Six Bowl. It obviously creates additional recognition and for our league and for that individual institution, but it also means about $6 million too, which right now our formula is that $2 million of that would go to the participating team. The other $4 million of that goes into a pot for the Mountain West to split. So it would benefit every team. So we are going to adopt that. We have got a model or a draft schedule for the 23 through 25 seasons. And the reason we're only looking at doing that for 3 years is that mirrors what our television contract is. And so what will happen in that 3-year period, and I have a feeling that, we'll be able to get this solidified here again, probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks, is in that 3-year period, you will have two teams that you will play all 3 years. And then the other 9 teams, you will rotate and play everybody in the league home and away one time. And so that math formula is way beyond me, but we have a guy that works with the Mountain West, actually works with about every league there is, named Kevin Pauga, who is kind of a scheduling matrix guru, and he has worked with the league to help us do that. So that's what you'll see in terms of scheduling for the 23, 24, and 25 football seasons.
Yeah, thank you for getting there. I made a note to get there, and I didn't see it, so I'm glad you brought that up.
But I promise I wasn't trying to stall on NIL. I was just waiting to see if anything else broke on social media where Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban had agreed to a cage match to fight things out.
Well, yeah, SEC commissioner put them in timeout for a minute. But real quick, with the scheduling, I think it's the the ACC, they're saying we're going to do a 3-5-5, which kind of sounds similar to what you're suggesting here, is where you've got some automatic regular rivalries that you can expect, or regular teams on your schedule, and then a rotation in other years from those other teams. And so that's exciting, I think, to see who gets selected as your regular
it really
your
is.
teams, and makes for
draft,
better TV.
I'm not at liberty to say in the who our two permanent opponents would be for those 3 years, but one of them is a very familiar face, and the other one, while people may not think of them right off the bat as a natural rivalry, I think people will be pleased with who our teams are going to be. And again, I think we're going to be able to get that finalized here probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome. Again, talking to John Hartwell, the Director of Athletics for Utah State, and we do have to get to this last topic with name, image, likeness.
Sure.
From your point of view, how has it affected athletics, particularly in those revenue sports of football and men's basketball? And what is your role as an athletic director to kind of navigate those waters, as it seems to be changing all the time?
Yeah, and sorry we changed tracks there again for a minute, but as you mentioned a few minutes ago, we've actually contracted with a company called Open Doors, and quite a few institutions across the country have done that. It's, for lack of a better term or analogy, it's almost like a dating service, Match.com or one of those like that. And what it does is it allows all of our student athletes in every sport to go in and create a profile for themselves, and then has the same type of thing for any companies or any individuals who are looking to potentially hire student athletes to do name, image, and likeness promotions for them, and basically serves as a vehicle and a database to connect those. So we're excited about getting that up and running. Probably we announced the agreement last week. We are currently working on getting that system up and running, and that, I think that's going to be a huge benefit, not just to our football and basketball student athletes, but across the board. Present some opportunities to student athletes. But as you said, it has the cat is out of the bag, and it has been for almost 11 months now. But the two primary pillars that this whole thing was started on, or was introduced by the NCAA on, were the terms fair market value and institutional involvement was not allowed. And all you got to do is pick up the paper every day to see where both of those things have gone out the window, because there's no way you can say that a quarterback at Long Beach Poly High School who has never played a collegiate down is going to go to the University of Tennessee, and that he is worth $2 million a year in whatever the endorsement deals they have set up at a, almost a guaranteed deal for 4 years or $8 million worth. That was never the intention. There's strong conversation. I know every athletic director, and I think every football coach would agree that with those deals like that, the tail is wagging the dog. That was not the intention at all. With Mark Emmert announcing a couple of weeks ago that he was going to transition out of his role at the NCAA, the combination of that and the fact that we are in an election year, a lot of people said, oh, well, we need Congress intervention. I don't think in an election year you're going to see either on the House side or the Senate side people step in, and it's just too much of a divided topic right now, and it's a mess. I will absolutely tell you it's a mess, and especially when combined with the transfer portal. And we would all be naive if we didn't think there were street agents shopping student athletes around. You've read about it. You read about the basketball player that left Kansas State that went to Miami for a reported $800,000 a year. And then the Miami kid said, hey, I was the leading scorer on a team that took us to the Elite Eight this year. I don't have that much money. And if you don't show me a deal that's worth that much money, I'm going in the transfer portal tomorrow. So that is clearly not what was intended. But some of the real life examples we have right now, fortunately, things at that, to that extreme have not happened to our student athletes. We have been involved with some transfer kids, and they have inquired to say, well, hey, what are you going to guarantee me from a NIL deal? And we say, hey, we've got some student athletes who have opportunities and have deals, but we're not in that business. And there are some institutions, maybe not directly from the institution themselves, but some people acting as agents or boosters or whatever that are making those kind of guarantees, and it's a slippery slope right now.
And then my last question's on this, and just to wrap up, one, how much is Utah State at a disadvantage compared to universities in larger markets or with larger alumni networks to be able to compete in this new sphere? And then two, just how does that affect, like, you're kind of competing now with local businesses. You're trying to get donations to fund your projects and what you're doing, but now these businesses have a decision to make. Do I give my money to the institution, or do I give it to the athlete specifically for my own purposes? So how does that affect what you're doing on a fundraising level?
Yeah, it absolutely does, Eric. And you've got several silos here. So you've got, let's just take it from a corporate level, maybe the easiest way to do it. And you've got XYZ company in Cache Valley, and they buy X number of season tickets, for employees and customers and stuff like that. So that's one silo. Maybe either the company themselves or the ownership of the company or the high-level executives, make annual donations over and above their tickets. So that's a second silo. Just like this capital project we have going, we're out seeking, donations for people to give towards capital projects. So that's another silo. You've got the corporate sponsorship aspect, to have signage in our venues and on our broadcast, ads on our broadcast. So that's another silo. And then you have name, image, likeness. So you've got, individual student athletes trying to get a piece of the pie. And so that's another silo. And I'll introduce one other one, and I know we're running short on time, but you've got, the Austin case money, where basically now the NCAA has said, hey, you can award up to $5,980 on an annual basis to student athletes for, quote, additional educational expenses. Yet another just total farce of a term, because it's just okaying to put more money in people's pockets. So you've got some institutions out there that are trying to seek donations to yet put another amount of money in kids' pockets. So I even think at the highest level, at the Texas or Texas A&Ms or Tennessee's or Ohio State's, there is some, level of cannibalism between all those silos. I mean, at some point, even the deep, deep pocket people or companies only have so much, and you don't even, throw inflation and the current situation in the stock market on top of it, and that impacts that even more. So, yes, that is a real challenge not just for Utah State, but for many institutions across the country. And again, we're going to try to continue to do everything that we can to provide the resources we can for our student athletes. But at the same time, we've got to prioritize those. Obviously, scholarships are a priority. Operating expenses to be able to allow teams to compete are going to be a priority. And we're going to try to open up as many avenues to NIL and to do some of these other things as we can. But you're right, you can only stretch the dollar or dollars so far, and it is an ongoing challenge on a daily basis for it. I do think you're going to see the pendulum swing back a little bit at some point, because the other thing that's impacting it right now is all of these kids who, got an additional year of eligibility because of COVID. So, just for round numbers, you've got 25% more student athletes in the market right now than you would, than you did pre-COVID, or you will have once these student athletes matriculate out. So I think that will swing the pendulum back a little bit. The other thing, the vast majority of student athletes, whether male or female, regardless of sport, they're competitive and they want to play. And one thing that hadn't changed is in basketball, you can only have 5 players on the court at one time. You're only playing a 40-minute game. In football, you can only have 11 players on the field at one time. You're playing a 60-minute game. So that hasn't changed. And I think the lure of, chasing dollars here or there, that is not going to set you for life. Although somebody could argue, say, hey, the kid at Cal Poly or at Long Beach Poly going to Tennessee, yeah, that could change his life. I don't disagree with that. But the the $1,000 deals here, even the $10,000 deals here or there, that's not enough for a lifetime. So I think you are going to see the pendulum swing back a little bit. And quite frankly, too, I don't know if I'd use the term sweet spot, but, I don't dislike the position we're in at Utah State, because I think some of these bidding wars that you're going to have at the Power 5 level, at some point, people aren't going to be able to afford the price of poker. And I still think we're going to be able to attract, high quality student athletes who want to get a good education, who want to compete at the highest level, and who want to develop. And I don't think that's going to change for us. But as administrators, as coaches, we've got to continue to look at opportunities so that we don't get left behind in this. The only other thing I will mention is really quick, you talk about major markets. Yeah, that is a consideration and a concern, because I'll tell you just candidly, in our league, UNLV, men's and women's basketball, they have, now it's a couple of different dealerships, but they have a conglomerate of car dealerships that are based out of the Vegas area. They are not giving cars per se, but they are providing what they call car stipends to every men's and women's basketball player at UNLV. So yeah, that's real. That's in our league, and that's something that we've got to compete against from a recruiting standpoint.
It's wild, wild west with it. I think that there will be some guidance. I think there's enough people jumping up and down that each state is different, each conference, each school seems to have a different approach to it. So I think you're right. I think at some point there will be something legislated, but it may be a while. But good for the athletes for being able to benefit from it. But right now it's crazy. So. But appreciate the insight. I know it's a wild time with a lot of things going on, and I know you're busy trying to handle it all, but appreciate the time that you were able to spend with us today and trying to navigate some of this craziness, and also good news and exciting news for what's going on at Utah State.
Absolutely. And as always, appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, Eric, and appreciate you guys' support and the support of all the Aggies in Cache Valley. And challenges here, but as a glass half full person, we'll view those as opportunities. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, we do still have 10 athletes who are competing. We've got 10 track and field student athletes who will be going to Fayetteville, Arkansas next week for the NCAA outdoor track and field regionals. And so we do still have a handful competing, and it'll be August before we know it. And soccer and volleyball and men's and women's cross country and football cranking up. But always good to visit with you and appreciate the opportunity.
All right, thank you, John Hartwell, Director of Athletics at Utah State University. Thanks for your time. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Eric. You as well.